insect. Is everyone ready? Media ready? Good afternoon. I'm attorney Ben Crump, along with attorney Kevin O'Brien and attorney Chance Lynch and attorney Lisa Park and attorney Matt Cohen. We have the honor and the privilege of representing the families of Carla and Andre Boynton, who were pillars of this community, who tragically lost their lives due to the negligence, the gross negligence of the Lyft driver and the Lyft Corporation. We also have the distinct honor of representing a young woman, Miss Diamond Cannady, this hard-working mother of 5, who was tragically kidnapped and sexually assaulted by a Lyft driver when she was simply trying to get home from work with her children. And so I want to take just a moment and introduce these very special people who we have the honor of representing. We said Diamond Cannady, who's here with her grandmother, and you can see from the photograph Diamond and her beautiful children. And we want Diamond to know this day and going forward that you are not alone, Diamond. You are not alone. We're standing up with you against this multi-billion-dollar corporation. You are not alone. Your pain matters, and we're going to make sure they know it matters. And then we have Carla and Andre Boynton. We have Carla's mother here standing beside me, Miss Helen. As anybody knows, one of the most difficult things ever to do is to bury a child. We also have the 5 children of Carla and Andre Boynton present with us. We have Amani Shaw, we have Nafisa Shaw, Elima Shaw, Mustafa Shaw, and Yusuf Shaw. These beautiful children who were presented to this world by some of the most beautiful people you could ever imagine. I mean, they were a cornerstone in this community. I mean, they were so special in so many ways. And their children are now having to define their legacy because they were killed while they were visiting for the Savior's Day religious conference up in Detroit, Michigan, where Attorney O'Brien, Mr. Ali, you had a Lyft driver who was going 90 miles an hour on city highways and city streets where the speed limit was 25 and 35 miles an hour. I mean, continuously, recklessly. He was going 90 miles an hour and caused their mother and father to be tragically killed. And the ironic part is that he survived. But yet they died. It is just so unbelievable. I mean, as Nafis and Amani, we all know that at some point your mother and father are going to leave this earth. But you never imagine them leaving, being taken from you both at the same time. I mean, it is so tragic. I mean, the mental anguish is so tragic when you think about losing mama and daddy at the same time. I mean, and they were incredible people, incredible. Carla Boynton, a track star. I mean, just a supreme gifted athlete. I understand, Amani, she held the record for a 100-yard dash for 40 years at the AAU National Track Competition. I mean, 40 years. She wasn't an average chance. You ain't average, Matt. You ain't average when you set the record and it lasts 40 years. I mean, that's almost unheard of. But she was a superb athlete, but she was an even better human being. And Nafis and Yusef and Mustafa and all of them will tell you she was an even better mother. I mean, she graduated from North Carolina Central, right here in Durham, North Carolina. She was a school teacher, teaching our children for over 30 years. I mean, just a pillar in this community, an angel. I think she was defined by many people, Miss Helen. You did a wonderful job raising a wonderful daughter who gave so much to this community. And she had a soulmate who was equally incredible. I think Bishop Lynch, they talk about being equally yoked. Carla and Andre were equally yoked. They were just incredible people. He was an incredible athlete too. Now, understand, he was a phenomenal athlete. I know his family and they're all his boys and everybody who knows him know that he was a phenomenal basketball player. Played college ball, but his claim to fame amongst his family and all of his friends was that his high school basketball team defeated Michael Jordan's high school team for the state championship. And there is an iconic newspaper photograph where Andre Boynton is defending the NBA Hall of Fame, who many people consider the greatest basketball player ever. He was defending Michael Jordan. So he got the receipts and the pictures to show that he beat Michael Jordan. That's who Andre Boynton was. A phenomenal athlete and an even better, like his wife, an even better human being. They were just special people. He graduated also from North Carolina Central University here in Durham, North Carolina, and he worked with our children. Both of them had a special desire to work with our children. He was over the supervisor over the Parks and Recreation Center in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, for over 30 years. And if all of that wasn't enough, man, Amani shared with us that their mother and father would go feed the homeless every Sunday. I mean, just incredible, incredible people. And so I want to tell you precisely why Attorney O'Brien and our legal teams are here today. We're here to announce that just a few minutes ago, we filed a $50 million lawsuit against Lyft Corporation on behalf of Diamond Cannady for her being kidnapped and sexually assaulted by a Lyft driver when she was simply trying to get home after a hard day's work to her 5 babies. She was kidnapped and sexually assaulted by a Lyft driver who was intoxicated and belligerent and was trying to force himself onto her. She didn't deserve that. Nobody deserves that. She's going to tell you in her own words about how when a woman is sexually assaulted, how it changes them. And now you are trying to fight for justice, not to just have this victimhood that you can't escape. And thank God Diamond is fighting because she has these children, these daughters, who are looking up at their mother, and they're going to follow her examples. And so this mother said she is not going to let Lyft Corporation get away with this. I mean, this seems to be an epidemic when you think about these ride shares. I mean, Attorney O'Brien, isn't it correct that New York Times reported a sexual assault occurs in these rideshare companies like Lyft and like Uber every 8 minutes in the United States of America? A woman is sexually assaulted, or a girl or a child, every 8 minutes. And that's why we're bringing this historic lawsuit for $50 million here in Durham County on behalf of this mother who did not deserve this. She trusted that Lyft would do right by her. She was paying them not to be sexually assaulted, not to be kidnapped, not to be forced upon. She trusted when she gave them her money on the app that they will do what they advertise, give her a ride safely. And they did not. I mean, we talked about the Boyntons. Attorney O'Brien, who is a national expert on these rideshare cases, is going to talk about how they betray the trust of the citizens in the communities that they get profits from by missing things on background checks, by failing to do things that are prudent to make sure that people like Diamond are safe while they're in their cars. Remember, when citizens are in the cars of Lyft, Lyft has a duty of care to each of us when we get in those cars. No person should be at risk of being wounded on their way home from work, from being sexually assaulted, just because they trusted Lyft, they trusted Uber, they trusted these rideshare companies. No, you should not be able to get away with betraying the trust. Rideshare companies have a duty to their passengers who are trusting them to transport them safely. There is no excuse for this level of negligence. It is clear from Lyft's gross negligence that this rideshare just don't care. I mean, when you think about how this guy driving this Tesla up in Detroit, Michigan, going 90 miles an hour, I mean, through multiple traffic control devices. just running red lights, blowing through stop signs, 90 miles an hour. I mean, how did Lyft have him even employed? This ride share just don't care. This ride share just don't care. And that's why we're filing this lawsuit, to have accountability. And that's what we want, accountability to hold Lyft and every rideshare company that neglects providing a thorough background check of their drivers and putting policies in place to protect their riders. Accountability. We want to prevent this from happening to another young woman like Diamond. We want to prevent this from taking anybody else's children. We want to prevent this. Rideshare companies should not be allowed to fatten their pockets without protecting innocent people who trusted them. Customers are in their care when they are in their cars. If you remember nothing else that we say today, remember that they betrayed our trust. They betrayed our trust. And that we're going to make them honor that trust by holding them accountable. You're going to hear from Diamond and a couple of the family members of Carla and Andre. But before you do that, I want you to hear from a person who has worked night and day along with Attorney Lynch and Attorney Park to make sure we dot every I and cross every T in preparing this lawsuit, to make sure that Lyft knows that there will be accountability and that we will get justice. He's done it before all across America, and I'm so very honored to co-counsel with him to do it on behalf of these special people. Y'all, please join me in welcoming a great lawyer who really cares about people. All the way from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, I give you my brother, Attorney Kevin O'Brien.
Good afternoon. Rideshare companies like Lyft and Uber, particularly in the state of North Carolina, are what we call common carriers. And they owe the highest duty of care under the law to their passengers who've trusted them with their safety to get them from point A to point B. Families, including women and children, rely on and trust these companies, these tens and hundreds of billion-dollar companies, to transport them safely in their lives, to and from work, to and from school, to and from church, in the case of the Boyntons. And when they fail to live up to that responsibility, it's those companies who need to be responsible to their victims, to those they injure, to those they kill, to those who their drivers sexually assault. That company must be held responsible.
Amen.
And you know, Attorney Crump spoke about the concept of a rideshare company. And really, a rideshare company is a misnomer. A rideshare company wants to share in the profits of their drivers, of which they take 25, 30, up to 50% in some places, but they don't want to share in the responsibility for their conduct and for the conduct of their drivers, to their passengers who trusted them, who they've harmed, injured, killed, and assaulted. That needs to end today. And that is the purpose of this lawsuit that we have filed. You know, I read their comments. There are news articles about the Boynton tragedy and what occurred to Diamond. And their response is always the same. We have deactivated the driver and we've removed his driving privileges. He won't be driving for us anymore. Well, I say, too little, too late.
Amen.
Too little, too late for Diamond Cannady. Too little, too late for Andre and Carla Boynton. And so many others. so many others that we have seen. If you or I or another company, a tractor trailer company, we go out and we're negligent, careless, grossly negligent in our cars, the way we operate our vehicles, we are responsible, and there are no limits to that responsibility. Nobody, no company is perfect, but there should be no different rules for rideshare companies like Uber and Lyft. They should be held to the same accountability that you and I are, and every other company across this country is. Because justice for all means that they can't escape justice and accountability when their drivers and their own actions harm, injure, kill their passengers, period. There are three principal steps that these companies can take to make sure that they satisfy their obligation to their passengers, to make sure that they protect their passengers. And these companies need significant improvements in each of these areas. The first is background checks. The second are speed and safety monitoring. And the third is listening to drivers' reviews and feedback and complaints that they get from customers. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about those, what we have seen through the cases that we have handled and what we are investigating in Diamond's case and in Andre and Carla's case. Background checks. We have seen countless incidents, and every single time, again, that press release, we've removed the driver from the platform. What do the rideshare companies always say? The same thing. We conduct thorough background checks. Well, not thorough enough. With a driver like this, we've seen him. We knew that Ryan Davey had previously been arrested for DUI, yet he was still driving for Lyft while intoxicated when he sexually assaulted Diamond. Why was that driver still driving? We have seen countless incidents where drivers who should not have been driving, and not just our opinion, I'm talking about what the law says about who can even drive for these companies, should not have been driving because of prior convictions or prior complaints or prior crashes or prior injuries or prior deaths, and they are still driving because they have spelled people's names wrong, because they got their date of birth wrong. We have cases where a person was thrown off the application because of complaints, submitted a fake ID, different name, different picture, totally different date of birth, and they let them right back on, because more drivers means more money to these companies. And that is what their bottom line is. And if they would put the safety of their passengers and everybody else on the roadway as equal to their bottom line, their passengers would be safer and all of us would be better off. And you know what? People would think more highly of these companies if they would do that as well. There are more people than I can count driving for these rideshare companies right now who should not be. And until these companies take more steps, safer steps, more comprehensive steps to make sure that that stops, things like this will continue to occur. And that is unacceptable. In the Boynton case, you heard Attorney Crump talk about this driver, Theopris Mays. He goes up to Detroit. He's actually from Virginia. And he's called to Detroit because Lyft posts an advertisement for their drivers. Hey, come up here. There's a large religious conference that the Boyntons were attending. Come up here because there will be rides for you. You will be able to make money. And obviously make money not just for the driver, but also for Lyft. Absolutely. Yep. That's why they're up there. Yep. And so they solicited him to come up there. And you have a Lyft driver driving on city streets, 25 and 35 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour, through red lights, through stop signs. There are children running on those streets. This is a city where people live and play. Witnesses said, and we downloaded the speed of the vehicle and saw how fast they were going, but witnesses said he was even going faster. They thought he was going 120 miles an hour on city streets. Can you imagine what Andre and Carla Boynton was going through their mind when they were trying to go to a religious event? to worship, to connect, thinking this is going to be the last moment of my life. I will never get to see my kids or my grandkids who are going to be born, all because I trusted Lyft. Boy, was that trust misplaced. Lyft knows how fast their drivers are going at all times. 100% of the time, they know how fast their drivers are going because they have a GPS speed monitoring system that is connected to telematics that tells them how fast their drivers are going at all times. Now, all I know, having worked in this career, bringing cases on behalf of people who've been injured and killed, is that the best predictor of future behavior is someone's past behavior. Period. This GPS system knows from the first time that a person drove for Lyft until the last time that a person drove for Lyft, how fast they have been going, how safely they drive. And what does Lyft do with that information? Nothing. Nothing. A driver can turn off, this is true of Uber's telematic system, a driver can turn off the alert on their GPS system that tells them that they're going over the speed limit. How is that safe? How is that safe? If Uber or Lyft wanted to, every time their driver was speeding, they could send them a notification and say, we've noticed that you were speeding. If you do it again, that's dangerous. You could hurt or kill yourself, your passengers, or somebody else. If you do it again, we're going to throw you off. But they don't, because more drivers means more money. And the third thing, customer complaints, feedback. These are technology companies who are connected to their drivers at all times. And I've seen so many times about how the rideshare companies want to solicit feedback from their drivers. And, the positive driver feedback, they want 5-star drivers. Well, I can guarantee you that there are the same complaints, and we have seen them, that are not 5-star feedback. They are 1-star feedback. This driver is driving too fast. This driver is not wearing a seatbelt. He's talking on the phone. He won't stop at a stop sign. And what do they do with that information? We've seen this time and time again. They send an email to the driver. The driver says, oh, no, you must be mistaken. I wasn't talking on the phone. Okay, well, we just want to remind you of the rules. Unless there are consequences to somebody's actions, you're thrown off the application for 30 days. Can't do it again. If you do it again, you'll never drive for Lyft again. These drivers will not change their behavior. And Uber and Lyft, any rideshare company, they have the tools, knowledge, information, and ability to do that, but they don't. I want to close by reiterating what these families said to Attorney Crump and to myself when they first came to us in the beginning. These lawsuits are about public accountability, and they are about making sure that ride shares are safe for everybody so that nobody needs to be told what they were just told. That any actions by those rideshare companies for them are too little, too late.
Amen.
Thank you. And next you're going to hear from Attorney Lynch.
I will say this as Attorney Lynch comes up, and thank you so much, Attorney Brian. You get to see Diamond and you see the pictures, but I just want to let you understand what was lost. And to reiterate what Attorney O'Brien just said, the drivers in both of these matters, whether it's Diamond or with Carla and Andre, they're going to be held accountable through the efforts of the district attorney. The question is Lyft going to have any accountability? And that's where we come in. Because if we don't step up, they just keep pointing the fingers at the drivers, never changing their behavior. We're here to help them do the right thing. That's what this lawsuit is about. So, Attorney Lynch, you've always done the right thing. Will you share some of your remarks? Attorney Lynch heads up our office here in North Carolina and is doing a lot of the heavy lifting with Attorney O'Brien. And I will say this as he takes the podium. He's been with these families a lot. This is going to be emotional when you hear from them. Um, and so we'll try to take your questions after they do it. But just know this is so emotional when we bring them up to speak. Attorney Lynch.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to, before I share some remarks about this matter, I want to express our gratitude to the River Church and to Bishop Ronald Godby and to his exemplary team that have been so kind to us and being the host church for this. So on behalf of all of us, especially Attorney Crump, let's give them a round of applause.
What a beautiful, beautiful campus.
We are so grateful to Pastor Eric. We're grateful to Pastor Sims and to Bishop Godby for opening the doors to this beautiful sanctuary and supporting these families in this tragic loss and the events that have happened. And I also see Minister Aman, and some other leaders from the local Nation of Islam. And so we recognize them as well. Carla and Andre Boynton were very devoted members of the Nation of Islam. And so I would be remiss if I did not recognize them in their presence and thank them for their support today. And I know Attorney Crump went through our legal team, but we can't forget Attorney Matt Cohen, who is here and who is an essential part of our legal team as well. So let's give him a round of applause. Here's the thing. Each week we learn of incredible families, just like these beautiful families that we're so privileged to serve, who've been similarly traumatized and impacted by the behavior or the misbehavior of rideshare drivers. Not just the misbehavior, but the misbehavior that could have been avoided if their employer had been more diligent and devoted to their riders. Now, these cases are about trust and accountability. I need y'all to hear what I'm saying here. Trust and accountability, because when a person books a rideshare, they should be guaranteed that their driver is reliable and that their driver is responsible.
All right.
Now, I could add another R for the effect of alliteration and say respectful, but I think that should go without saying.
Okay,
That when you book on the app a ride to get from point A to point B, you should expect to arrive there safely and you should be respected. That is simple, basic human decency. And so we believe that this level of diligence is more than reasonable.
Amen.
And we stand alongside these families demanding that, because we realize that if we don't take a stance and a demand right now, it could be your family next.
Amen.
But let's be very clear. While we have filed the lawsuit in Durham County today, it is incomparable and cannot even be compared to the loss and the tragedy that these families have experienced. The reality is this: there is no sum that is sought or attained that is really sufficient to be able to, or adequate to be able to compensate these families. And so we're fortunate to do what we do, to be able to travel the country each week, to be able to help families and to be able to give voice to the voiceless. And I've said it over and over and over and over again, that these cases, they're not just about finances, they are about families. And that's what's so important. Let me say this and I'll be done. It is clear that Lyft owed our clients a duty.
Yes, sir.
They failed. Not only did they fail, they failed miserably. And we will not stop until they are held accountable to these two families and every family that we represent that are victims of this level of gross neglect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney Lynch. Thank you for heading up our office here in North Carolina, and more importantly, thank you and Matt and Lisa and Kareem for working with these families night and day. It is not overlooked by us. Now, this is the time that is always very challenging. You're going to hear from the families themselves, and they have their Kleenexes and stuff because to us, to many, it's a case, but to them, it is truly their lives. It is truly their lives. You'll first hear from Miss Diamond Cannady before we introduce you to family members of Carla and Andre. Y'all, please give a round of applause for this strong young woman who refused to let her tragedy be swept under the rug.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Diamond Cannady. Uh, March 31st, I just remember I had worked all day and my kids was hungry and I didn't want to cook. So fast food was the option. So I went to go grab some wings and I ordered a Lyft to get me home. The Lyft had said it would be there in like 6 minutes. So it was like great timing from the like just the Lyft coming to get me. When I got into the car, I didn't automatically notice signs of, anything with the guy, but he went around the back of a building where I knew was like not security footage and things like that. So when he did that, I went into survival mode. I was scared. So I called 911. And when I called 911, I was pretending to say I was talking to my sister. I just kept saying, "Sis, I'm here." I'm trying to give them the locations. They're asking me questions, and I can just recall that uh, he he forcefully kissed me. Somebody I just never known. I wasn't expecting this. Never seen a day in my life. He offered me money not to get off the phone with the police, not to tell them what happened, and he was naked. He was from bottom down, and so it, it, it took something from me I just can't get back ever. And I just want to let everybody know and to be aware that when you're using these ride shares, you can't trust them. You can't trust them with your kids. You can't trust them with yourself. Because here we are, we still months down the line, and I'm still trying to get back to who I was before this happened. I'm gonna let the next person go, and if anybody has any questions, but that's about all I got to say.
Thank you, Diamond. Thank you. I mean, when a woman has been sexually assaulted, the mental scars that never go away. Um, Thank you, Diamond. You're not alone. You're not alone. We're standing with you. Um, Next, you will hear from Carla and Andre's daughter, Nafis.
Good afternoon. My name is Nafisa Shaw, and I am the middle child of Andre and Carla Boyntons. On February 22nd, 2026, our life changed forever. We lost our heartbeat, we lost our biggest supporters, and we lost our reason for why we go so hard each and every day. My mother was not only a mother, she was a teacher, she was an athlete, she was a daughter, she was a friend, she was the new nanny that she loved so much. And she meant so much to the community, and the community meant so much to her. My mom would give her life for her students, her community, her siblings, her family in general. My mom would show up to her students' baby showers and get them gifts. My mom would give rides home to children who didn't have any, for athletes and just students in general. My mom would stay up late grading papers, even though she may have not liked it. My mom really enjoyed just being a light of fresh air, a breath of fresh air, and with her beautiful smile, you'll just truly be missed. My father, Andre Boynton, was one of a kind. My dad really enjoyed sports. He loved teaching anybody who was willing to listen about the game of basketball and football. My dad always made it be known that he played against Michael Jordan and he beat him. Okay? He's definitely gonna show that picture out if he gets a chance. Um, my parents, like they stated before, would feed the homeless every Sunday just as a pillar in their religion for charity. They didn't do it because they were asked to. They did it because they wanted to, and it brought happiness to their heart. We're still in disbelief about what has happened to our family, and I never would. I always imagined I would lose my parents, just not both at the same time in such a tragic way. Whew. With the driver going 90 miles per hour, over 90 miles per hour, and me actually taking the route in Detroit to see what happened, I would never want another family to experience what my family and I are experiencing. I would never want the families to imagine getting their parents' bag back and my mom's blood is on the bag. I would never want a child to not be able to experience not being able to dance with their father during their wedding. I would never want a child to not be able to just call their parents to just see how their day was or to just ask the life questions. I thank y'all for coming today and listening to me during this time, and thank you for the support. And that's all I really have to say.
And I think Amani, their oldest daughter, will say a few words before we take your questions. Uh,
I'm Imani Shaw, their eldest daughter, and February used to be a great time in my life because it was my birthday, February 18th. But February 22nd changed my family life forever. And having to, going from getting messages from our parents that morning to having to call hospitals because we've got an alert that there was a crash and we couldn't get in touch with them, to calling a morgue and being told that my mother's body wasn't even recognizable. That is what that driver and ultimately Lyft took from us, our family. Having to not even be able to have an open service for them. And I was pregnant at the time, me and my sister, and having to plan everything. It's just most people will not imagine the pain, imagine the pain that we went through and are still going through. So we just want justice for our family and all to come. And we don't want anybody else to experience this. Thank you.
Thank you, Amani. You can just hear the pain, uh, and as they are shaken, as they speak about the tragedy, you know that it's something that they will never get over. And that's why we will hold Lyft accountable for stealing their mother and father from this earth when it was preventable. They did not have to lose their parents like this. They did not have to lose their parents like this. And based on this gross negligence, we say it again, this rideshare just don't care. You can say all the things about you suspending the driver and everything, but as Attorney O'Brien said, that's far too little too late. We look forward to being able to do discovery in the litigation to see how many times, how many warning signs they had. I mean, at some point, you don't notice Lyft, you don't notice Uber, and if you keep doing the same thing and expect different results, then that's just crazy. And we're going to not let you continue to be careless and willful and reckless at the behest of people like Carla and Andre and Diamond. And we have other cases all across America, in Louisiana, in Philadelphia, Ohio, where people got killed because of the background checks being failed. People looking the other way. Nah, it stops today. That's why we filed the $50 million lawsuit. It stops today, Liv. It stops today. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional just from being with this family. Attorney Park, you want to lead the Q&A?
We know you must have some questions, so we'll take your questions at this time. Please just raise your hand if you have a question. Yes, sir.
Certainly. I'll say this and then I'll defer to Attorney O'Brien and Attorney Lynch. We are still gathering all the specific details, but you can rest assured that there will be a lawsuit forthcoming. Attorney O'Brien. And then Attorney.
Yeah, thank you very much. The Boynton criminal prosecution against Theopris Mays is still going on, and there are some preliminary competency evaluations that are being done to determine whether Mr. Mays is technically competent to stand trial. And while those preliminary competency evaluations are done, that constrains some of the ability to conduct some discovery that we're able to do. As soon as the competency issue is decided, which we expect it to be decided in September, then we will be filing a lawsuit. Where that lawsuit's filed will depend on a number of different factors, primarily where we believe that the Boyntons can get the most fair trial that they possibly can.
Attorney Lynch, anything on that? Can I say this, Lisa? Mr. Ali, can you come here? I know Attorney Lynch acknowledged the leadership of the Nation of Islam. They were devout. I mean, in feeding the homeless, they were following the leadership of their mosque. So I wanted to at least have the leadership stand and be applauded for just your impact on this family before and after the tragedy. Thank you. Lisa.
All right. Thank you so much for your question. And if you'll do just like this reporter did when you stand, state your name and your organization, and then please continue with your question. Are there any further questions? Yes, ma'am.
Can you come up a little closer? We're having trouble hearing you.
She's asking for additional.
Are you talking about prior to the incident? Yeah. So because we were at the initial competency hearing out in Detroit, and while his competency is still being evaluated, it's impossible for us to be able to obtain information about his prior convictions. We do know that this driver had purchased the vehicle in Virginia. It was a Tesla Model 3. The reason that's relevant is because Lyft has a program with some of the rental car agencies where their drivers can purchase vehicles and then they pay as part of their paycheck to drive those vehicles. So they want them to meet certain minimum vehicle safety standards. And we also know from the service history on that vehicle that he spent time in Ohio before making his way to Detroit. You know, there were some statements that were made initially by his attorney or the prosecutor in the case as it relates to the reason he was up there, which was, you know, from an advertisement from Lyft to go drive for Savior's Day. That's exactly right. So they specifically solicited him to come up there for that. Again, you know, we don't know and won't know until we file a lawsuit and conduct discovery what those prior violations are. Obviously, you have a driver that's going 90 miles an hour. I had another case a couple years ago, and it was a similar situation where this driver had been speeding. What we were able to do is get that GPS telematic data, and we were able to show how often this driver had been speeding in the past. And again, these are not times that the driver was caught and arrested for speeding. And that's what is most upsetting to me when I start to look into the past history of the driver. It is very often the case that the rideshare company knows more about that driver's behavior, certainly than law enforcement, because law enforcement only knows if he'd been arrested for speeding, he'd been clocked for speeding. Well, how many other times have these drivers been speeding, exceeding the speed limit, driving unsafely that they weren't arrested for? The rideshare companies know all of that information. And obviously, any of the prior convictions is going to be a significant part of our investigation. But the most robust information that exists as it relates to that driver's past behavior is information that's in the rideshare company's possession.
I would just say this. Can you imagine, though? Can you just imagine what was going through Carla and Andre's mind when this guy kept blowing through lights? I mean, 90 miles an hour. I mean, for 9 or 10 minutes, he's going that fast before the collision, running into the building. And, you know, he walked away. He walked away and they didn't. It's still mind-boggling. So.
Any further questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you for that question. As you know, in North Carolina, everything is done through the portal. And so that has been filed with the clerk of court, the superior clerk of court in Durham County. We are anticipating for the stamp version to be provided back to us at some point today. So that takes time. We filed it immediately before coming out. So it has been received by the clerk of court. I've received notice of that, and I have an envelope filing number for that. But once that is available, we will work with you can go to press@bencrump.com and request a copy, and we may be able to put it on the website or something so that way you'll be able to obtain it. Did I answer all your? I thought it was another question. Okay.
Yeah, as it relates to this particular case, haven't heard a response back from them. As Attorney Lynch said, they do have a certain period of time to file a response to the complaint. There's been some informal communication with our client as well initially, but we haven't received a formal response back from them. We do expect that in about 30 days. Is that right? Yeah, within about 30 days.
I'm pretty sure after they get our $50 million lawsuit, they will respond, even if they didn't previously. We have their attention.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Attorney O'Brien and Attorney Lynch have been all over these issues. Great question.
It is a great question. And there's nothing more important than a second chance for somebody who deserves it. But third, fourth, fifth, and sixth chances, when somebody tells you the type of driver that they are, the type of conduct that they're behaving in, you should listen. All right. Absolutely. If someone has an offense that falls outside of the statutory framework, right? And certainly in North Carolina and many other states, there are laws that allow a certain time period to lapse after which they can then become eligible for a rideshare driver. But there's really two answers to that. Number one, those are just minimum requirements. And again, rideshare companies have way more information about a person's behavior than just the type of conviction that they have had in their past. All right. If a person has a prior driving under the influence or significant prior moving violations that would indicate that they have a pattern and practice of driving unsafely, but some period of time has passed and they appear not to have been convicted. Well, what else do they have? The rideshare company has complaints from customers. And we've seen this time and time again where customers are complaining about the condition of a vehicle. This driver is driving and talking on the phone. He's driving unsafely. He's speeding. He ran through a red light. And so what we're asking for is a holistic view of a person's driving profile. Okay, if they have a prior conviction, they're statutorily allowed to drive. That's great. But that still needs to be looked at in the context of what those companies know from their GPS telematics and from their driver feedback, from their customer feedback about a driver, so that they can make safe assessments about who can drive and who can drive safely when we trust our family members, our women, our children, our sons, our daughters to be driving for these platforms. And ultimately, it's the responsibility of the rideshare company to look at all of those factors, not just the convictions that law enforcement knows about, but the data that the rideshare company has to make sure they're making a safe assessment about who can responsibly drive the public.
And I just wanted to say, I couldn't help but say what Maya Angelou said. When a person shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And so these drivers, like Attorney O'Brien said, they have revealed themselves to these companies, but they are turning a blind eye. They are being willfully ignorant to the conduct of their drivers. I did want to make sure I said this. The New York Times article said, on average, every 8 minutes, a person is sexually assaulted in a ride share vehicle. Let's see what the question is first. No, come on up.
I think the main thing is I just don't want to see a family go through what I'm going through or what they're going through again. The best way I could put it.
Thank you for that question, and thank you for covering this case.
Any further questions from the press? We do want to thank you for coming out. Just though, to understand the breadth and depth of this case, as a show of hands, who here has ever taken a ride share? This is everybody. Everybody. This is not their case. This is our case. It is our case. We need to at least ensure the safety of our family, our friends, of each other. Thank you.
We'll keep you all posted when the lawsuit is available for today. And as soon as we file on behalf of the Boyntons, we will notify you, because they were truly pillars in this community. Thank you. can you state your name and spell your name?
Nafisa Shaw, Nafisa. Last name is Shah. And then Alima as well. She's sitting now, Alima. Same last name as